Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Layla, and for today's video, I'm going to be talking about how being debt-free is life-changing. Back in 2018, I had $82,200 worth of debt, and over the last several years, I have prioritized paying down my debt, and that was one of the main reasons why I decided to start this YouTube channel, so I could document my journey. And now I have $0 worth of debt, and I've talked about this many times, but I am just so grateful that I decided to pay off my debt and become debt-free. I became officially debt-free in September of 2023, but technically I've been debt-free since March 2023 because, as y'all know, my last debt was my student loan debt, and we were in a unique situation throughout the pandemic where if you had federal student loans, they were in forbearance and at 0% interest. So instead of me paying that debt down, I knew that I wanted to save for it so I could gain interest on that savings. I'm really glad I did that. But by March 2023, I reached enough in savings to completely pay off my student loan debt. So technically, I would say I've been debt-free for almost a year now. And when I look back on my journey, I am well aware that I probably would have a higher net worth right now if I still had my debt and if I focused more on investing instead of paying down my debt. And the reason for that is because I know that if I had my money invested, or even if I had my money saved, I would have been earning more money on those investments and on those savings compared to the interest rate that would have been on my student loan debt. I would need to look back at like my notebooks and stuff to see what my highest interest rate was, but I'm pretty sure everything was below 5%. And I'm pretty positive that I would have seen a higher return in my investments and even in my high yield savings account compared to the debt that I had. But I am so glad, I'm so grateful and glad that I decided to become debt free because it is genuinely so life-changing, and it's not a decision that I would change even if I knew that I would have more money right now, because yeah, I just really enjoy being debt free. So this video is kind of me advocating for being debt-free, and also I hope that it serves as kind of motivation for those of you who are on your debt-free journey, because it's tough. Going on your debt-free journey is really emotionally draining and it can be really stressful, but the light is at the end of the tunnel, I promise you, and it's so much better when you're on the other side. So I hope that this makes you excited. Would I ever go into debt again? Honestly, the answer is yes, probably. But that's not going to be credit cards, that's not going to be car debt, that's not going to be student loans, personal loans, any of that. It would be for a mortgage. Now, when the time comes for me to take out a mortgage and go through that process, I'm pretty positive I'll still be here on YouTube and documenting that journey as well. But as of right now, that is not in the next couple of years. And when the time comes for that, I will decide what I want to do then, because it definitely depends on my current living situation. It depends on the interest rate of the mortgage. It depends on the monthly payment of the mortgage. There's just a number of factors that would affect whether or not I rush to pay off the mortgage or just kind of keep that and pay monthly. But for now, I am living the debt-free lifestyle and I love it, and I will not go into consumer debt again, that's for sure. So I'm going to go through a few reasons for why I love being debt-free and just some of the perks that I have already experienced in less than a year. So the first thing would be that my money is now my money. Like, obviously I still need to pay bills, I still have to buy groceries and those sorts of things, but it was almost like giving myself a raise. So instead of me having to pay for things in the past, pay for my student loans, pay for credit cards, I now can pay for what I want to. I can just pay for living. And when you have debt, you literally owe money to somebody else, you know, to a company, to a lender. And that means that your money is not yours. And like I said, you do have to pay bills and stuff like that. And that's just a part of life. Like, you have to to pay some things to live and to have a roof over your head. But instead of me throwing hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars to debt, I now can choose what I want to do with that money. And throughout my debt-free journey, like I was saying, I did not have to put hundreds, I did not have to put thousands of dollars to my debt. That was a decision I made to pay my debt faster. But now that I've done that, like I've paid off the debt, I have the hundreds and thousands of dollars each month that I can put toward what I want to. And that is amazing. The second thing is that there's nothing working against me. Now, I will say that over the last few years, toward the end of my debt-free journey, I did not have much working against me because all I had left was my student loan debt. It was at 0% interest, and I actually was making money off of that debt by saving for it because I had that savings in my high-yield savings account. But before that, I was paying how much on interest, specifically on the student loans? It was like over $5 a day in interest. Before that, I had lots of credit card debt, and obviously we all know how credit cards are, and I was paying a ton in interest. Even when I was making progress, it was still working against me because I would make a payment, but a large chunk would go to interest, and so it was like I actually didn't even make that large of a payment, you know? And owing money, owing something that has a high interest rate can really, really work against you. Like I was saying, more than $5 a day in interest just for my student loans, not accounting for everything else. That can really add up. And this is why people make payments on their debt, and they may make payments for years, but their debt only increases because they're not making enough of payments in order to pay things down because the interest is just working against them. And now that I have no liabilities, literally zero liabilities, there's nothing pulling me down. And that leads me to number 3, actually, and that is that I can now focus on my future. All of these things that I'm calling out, you'll notice that there's a huge overlap. So with the first one, I can now use my money for what I want to. With the second one, nothing is working against me. And the third one, I can now focus on my future. So I can take those thousands of dollars and put it toward my future instead by saving, by investing. And that money is gaining interest. That money there's capital gains, there's dividends. All these things are now working for me and not against me. When I was paying down my debt, that was me really focused on my past. It wasn't me looking forward because I had to first take care of the things that I had done in the past. So since I was 17 years old, since I was 18 years old, and I took out my first student loan debt, I was 29 years old, still paying for debt that I took out when I was 18, when I was a teenager. But now I can really prioritize and focus on my future. And that even means moving on to bigger financial goals. So in the past, it was always like, I want to be debt free. I want to be debt free. This year, I want to pay this amount of debt. This month, I want to pay this amount of debt. I always had to focus on the debt and on the past. But now it's, I want this much in savings. I want to invest this much. I want to max out my Roth IRA. I want to max out my 401k. And that is just so much better than having to worry about things that I did 10 years ago. That also leads me to number 4, which is that I only see growth now, and I see growth much faster. Throughout my debt-free journey, especially at the beginning when I had the high interest rate and things were really working against me, I would often see a decrease in my net worth, or I would go backwards. And this was because I had so many bills to pay because I had a lot of debt. I also had a lower income, and the two of those combined it's not a good combination. But because of that, it was harder for me to save money. So if something came up, I would typically have to go into further debt. There were some times where I was able to have enough of an emergency fund to cover the emergency that came up. It was like 1 month I would make progress. I would take 1 step forward, but then the next month I would actually take 2-3 steps back because I was going into further debt, and any of the progress that I made the month prior went away. Now that I don't have the debt and I'm focusing on my future, I'm able to save more, I'm able to invest more, I'm able to get ahead every single month, and I've only seen growth even before I became debt-free. I've only seen progress in the positive direction. You can still make progress, even if you go backwards on your debt-free journey. You just actively paying attention to your finances and budgeting and using your emergency fund for an emergency. Like, all of that is progress. It's all part of the journey. But now I can literally say, like, if you look at my net worth tracker, it's me only going in a positive direction. When you're debt-free, it is definitely still possible to go backwards. Like, there may be a time where something comes up, or if the stock market really crashes, you could go down in net worth. But that is less likely to occur because I just keep making progress every single month. So it's like this compounding effect month 1, month 2, month 3, and it just keeps on going. So if something were to come up, if I were to stumble backward, it wouldn't be that large of a dent, and it would be much easier to recover from versus when I was actually in debt. That growth also comes faster. Like, I am now able to see my net worth increase from one month to the next by thousands of dollars, whereas in the past it was just like sometimes my net worth would just increase by like $20 that month, or I would only see a tiny, tiny bit of progress. It still counts, but now it is just so much faster. And that's why I've been able to go from a net worth of 0 to almost 100K in like less than 2.5 years. And that's crazy. Number 5, I experience way less stress. Way less stress. I'm just chilling, you know? At this point, money feels easy, and there's a combination of things that are happening. I have paid off my debt, I have increased my income, I have just become more comfortable with finances in general, but a huge part of that is being debt-free because I don't owe money to anybody. There is no weight on my shoulder. This is why I really wanted to be debt-free, because I just knowing that I had student loans or knowing that I had credit card debt was like a weight on my shoulders, and once that was gone, it's like a relief. Like, now I can just chill and go about my life, do what I want with my money. Without debt, there's just so much less that you have to think about. And I remember many times when I was in debt, how much sleep I would lose. There were specific debts that caused that loss of sleep. There were times when I overdrafted my account, I would lose sleep. I did make the poor decision of co-signing on a car, but that was a debt that was tied to me. And luckily I got out of that sooner rather than later, but that was another one that I lost so much sleep for. I just remember being up at night and not being able to fall asleep, but also crying in combination, and just basically crying myself to sleep, or like waking up in the middle of the night stressed out, or even waking up in the morning and remembering like, oh, I have this problem in my life that now doesn't occur because there is no debt problem, and it's beautiful. Number 6 is that I feel way less guilty when I make purchases. It's pretty rare for me to feel guilty when I spend money. Now, y'all know that I do pay a lot of attention to my finances, and I feel like I'm a pretty low spender. There are times where if you saw my video last month, my budget last month, I spent quite a bit of money on personal spending, things that were unnecessary for me. But looking back, I don't feel guilty about buying those things because I am in a much better financial situation. But I remember in the past when I did have debt and I would buy something, I would still buy it, but that contributed more to my lack of sleep or the stress that I was feeling because I was thinking, oh, I really shouldn't be buying this. Instead, I should be applying it to my debt, or I just put myself into further debt because I bought XYZ. And even with things like traveling, toward the end of my journey, I didn't feel as guilty. I do believe that throughout your debt-free journey, you should make time and use some of your money to actually enjoy life. And for me, that did involve travel. But I remember I went into debt at the very beginning of my debt-free journey. Actually, before I even started really focusing on paying down debt, I took a trip and paid for all of it with debt. I was like, yeah, I want to go there. But I put it all on a credit card. I went into further debt in order to travel. And obviously I still did it. I still took the trip. I still enjoyed the trip, but I felt really, really guilty about it. And now that is just something that I don't feel. And I'm really glad that I don't feel that. And honestly, it may even take some time to get to this point because when you're on your debt-free journey, you tend to be really strict with yourself or make these rules for yourself. You build these habits and you just become more of a frugal person. And sometimes just spending money in general can be a trigger of guilt for people for a long time. But I've noticed that as the months pass and as I've just improved my finances in general, that feeling has decreased and decreased. Number 7 is that I feel like it's really helped my confidence. And I will say that my confidence comes from a number of things, but a big one is doing things that you say you are going to do. And just the whole journey of becoming debt-free, the discipline it requires, the work it requires, the dedication, that all really helps your confidence. And it's really because I can look back and be like, that was really hard, but I did it. I stuck it out, I pushed through, and I got to the other side. I got to where I wanted to be. And I dreamt of it for so long. Like I remember I would often think about becoming debt free, making that final payment, and I would get emotional. It was like I could envision the future of that, and just saying that I would do it and then finally getting to that point, it's just built my character and has definitely built my confidence, because now I can look at difficult things, or I can face a challenge and be like, yeah, I know I can do that because I did that. I committed to something for so long, and it wasn't easy, but I got there and I know that I can do this. Being debt free has also helped me to make the decision that I want to take a sabbatical and take my business full time, because I know that I can do it. Like it may be challenging, or it's something that scares me, but because of everything that I've gone through and how I've just gotten to this point, I know that it's something that I can accomplish. And in combination with that, because I no longer have my debt, that allows me the opportunity to take a sabbatical, because I don't have the responsibility of paying debts. I don't have thousands of dollars that I owe to people. So I know that I will be much more comfortable taking a sabbatical and not having a quote unquote stable job, because I don't have as much to pay when it comes to just living expenses, and there's nothing above me hovering over me like student loans or credit cards. So it just makes the decision easier. And going back to the confidence piece of this, I feel like I am also much more confident in my financial decisions, my financial mindset, and just finances in general, So if there's something that I want to do, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I feel confident about paying for it. It's not that I don't think about my purchases anymore. Y'all know that I still do, but I'm able to purchase a much more expensive piece of furniture and feel comfortable with doing that because I know that I am able to afford it. And I feel like that all came from going through this debt-free journey. And now it's kind of like I just trust the process, because I have gone through this and experienced this journey. I really do trust the process. I remember before I really had such a scarcity mindset. Like I would get really stressed out if I got a medical bill or something. That would really stress me out or weigh on me for a long time. And I still have the tendency to do that. For me, I really like, if I have a problem in my life or if something comes up, I really want it to be resolved as quickly as possible. That's just my personality. But I know that if something comes up like, oh, you gotta pay $20 or you got overcharged for something and you have to be reimbursed. In the past, I would really stress about that. Like, hey, I need my money now, or I would be worrying about it. It would keep me up at night. But now I don't feel that. It's like, oh yeah, it'll be solved. It's okay. Like, we're gonna be fine, And that's such a cool feeling. And I feel like I'm just now realizing that as I am talking about it, because really when things come up, it's just like, oh yeah, that's fine. Or if I have to pay an extra $20 for something, or if we have to fix something in the house, it's like, yeah, that's fine. We got this type of thing. That's how I feel now. And I know that before I didn't feel that way. It's still inconvenient, but I don't feel the stress of finances related to it anymore. And the final thing, I think this is number 8, is that throughout the past few years, going through this journey has really helped me to build some strong financial habits. And it doesn't just stop. You don't just become debt-free and then you're like, chaos erupts again. I'm going to stop budgeting. I'm going to stop saving. It just gets better from there. Like, I have built such strong habits because of being so disciplined with my debt, the budgeting, the tracking, the, putting extra cash to debt when I didn't have to, that now that just rolls into everything that I'm doing going forward. Saving, investing, building my business. All of this came from that debt-free journey. And I think that is so cool. Getting out of debt was just one small part of my financial journey, and I'm really grateful to be on the other side of it. And like I keep saying, I'm really grateful that I decided to go through that and got to this point where I am now, because I wouldn't say this is just the beginning, but this is just the beginning of my wealth building. Like, now I can build my wealth. Nothing's working against me. Everything is going to grow. So if you're on your debt-free journey, keep sticking it out. Stay strong. You got this. Hopefully this is motivating for you to get to the other side, and you will get there. Just keep on chugging along, because it will be worth it. It's definitely been worth it for me. I feel like this video was kind of all over the place, so I apologize for that, but like all these 8 things that I went through really, they tie together. And so I feel like when I talk about one, I could just link it to the other, and that is just the beauty of this whole journey and being debt-free. I'm sure those of y'all who are watching who are debt-free feel the same way or feel very similar to the things that I just went through. So please feel free to comment that down below. But otherwise, thank y'all so much for being a part of my journey. Y'all have supported me throughout this and have helped me to become debt-free. So really, I can't thank y'all enough. And I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. It really supports my channel, and I'll see you in my next one.